I feel that we don't get a second chance to build a life that we love and create a legacy that lasts. And most legacies don't last. The person that runs my board of trustees is Rich Christensen. Been one of the biggest influences in my life is his family, not just Rich, but also Alice and Alex and their other kids, because it was about it'll be, what, a year and a half ago, we went and watched what they did on a Saturday morning as a family. And it got my kids excited because we're like, hey, I want to see what their rituals and traditions are. All of what's been so great about business can actually be transferred and translated into family. Meaning businesses have logos, businesses have vision statements, businesses have values, or at least the great ones do. And so I look at my business as something that I want to last beyond me. I want my family to be able to last where they understood who I am, what I stood for, and that I was part of making sure that they didn't have to be born into financial bondage 100 years from now. That they didn't have to start from scratch and learn even some of the wrong lessons. And so it's been revolutionary for me in the last year because I attended this workshop with my kids. And we actually walked away with a family crest that now we've actually made a full-on heirloom and shield that goes above the mantle. So we geeked out about it. We took it to the next level on that. And then now my kids can talk about why symbols are on there. They chose some of the symbols on there. And then now when people show up to our cabin, they see that. It becomes a talking point that starts to create the story of our family. I also want to acknowledge Rich and his children, and especially Alice, for putting up with it in writing Toes Turn Purple, because that's a book that was phenomenal. Read it, then I said, okay, we're going to get on camera and film about it. Now, that was selfish that I said we're going to film, because I knew by filming I could now learn it even more deeply, and then I could start to share it within my family. And then I was like, okay, this is not enough. We've got to have some type of workshop, and it ended up being perfect from a standpoint of the philosophies you learn from these guys throughout the time of what they've done in their own family to pay for their own philanthropy, to pay for their own vacations, to pay for their own, clothing and all that kind of stuff from the time that they're teenagers. I feel like people support that which they help to build. And so it was awesome, even though probably the most difficult 2.5-day workshop I've ever attended, because I have two boys one is a lot like me, so he wants to tell jokes and be the center of attention, surprise, surprise, and not pay attention half the time. And then the 13-year-old is just upset that he's not on his technology, right? So to corral them in and get where we had to get by the end of the time was difficult, but richly rewarding. I knew for a decade that a family mission statement was important, but I never got it done until I attended this. So we walked away with the family mission statement. And as we finished this, we actually now have meetings about twice a month. And as we read the values, each person reads one and we say, what does that mean to you? And that's starting to become more something that's in their heart versus just 4 different places throughout the house. We had the graphic designer actually design it, print it on like a cardstock type of thing, and we put it up throughout the house as a reminder. And then once we read that, we read the family mission statement, and we just talk about what that means. And then we go into rating each other on a scale of 1 to 10. How am I doing as a father? And if I get less than a 10, I just simply say, what would it take to be a 10? And you would be amazed how simple it is to get to 10 with these kids. It's like, Dad, if you would watch me play video games. Okay. Now, I fell asleep last time I watched Breck play video games. I said, that was kind of a failure. I'm sorry, but he goes, epic fail. I'm like, all right, man. I'm going to lose my status. I need to get to a 10, so why don't I watch you? Then we say, what skill are you working on this week that we can support you in? So what we're doing is we're investing in human capital. We're investing in our heirs so that they're prepared to be better stewards for what can happen in the future. See, it's actually really easy to pass on wealth tax-free to the next generation. The right estate planning, a few meetings, working with Wealth Factory, that's pretty simple. What's complicated is making sure that people are ready for that money, determining if you want them to get it, if there's certain things that need to happen, what your philosophies are, making sure that they're prepared for it. And so that's where I just commend you for attending, for doing this work, and really thinking through it. So you're the one that's defining the family values. You're defining the family mission statement so it could be something that's integrated, lived, and experienced. See, because there's really 3 main rings that make up the family legacy ring. The first one is a family office. That's having an integrated, cohesive, comprehensive, and communicating financial team. When that team follows your family along the way, then you don't have to make the same missteps multiple times. You don't have to hit the landmines again because the lesson had already been learned, and you've got a transfer of knowledge through that financial team that's communicating with you. The second thing is a family constitution. And a family constitution is your distilled values, philosophies, and most important lessons you've learned in your life that you want to pass on as a dynamic way for people that are living in the future to determine what to do with your fortune, to determine what to do with your wealth, not based upon just legalese, but a statement of purpose that begins with who you are, what you stand for, and those things that can be guides to a better life. And by the way, those are signposts. Those are not commandments, so to speak. Those are principles. Those are not taking away freedom. Just like the US has a constitution that we used to use, right? And it was super effective when we did. Ultimately, that created more prosperity. That created even more freedom because it created a structure where people don't get so far off the path that they see decimation or destruction, right? So the third part of that, I'm calling the family retreat until Rich comes up with a better name, right? He's like, it's more than a family retreat. And I completely agree with him, but I don't know what else to call it in 2 words. The family retreat is essentially saying we're investing in the people that matter to us. We're spending time with them so they can develop to be the best human being they could possibly be. That they can learn the things that are so valuable because we're going to learn some things through experience, inevitably. But what if we didn't have to learn everything through the most expensive tuition of experience? It's transformed our lives. It's also let us know about one other epic failure. We have technology rules that my kids have found a way to wear me down too often and get past it. Like we went and bought from T-Mobile something called like some home mode where we could shut down all technology. And these guys figured out how to circumvent that, right? And then we catch them on it. I'm like, dude, if you guys would put this effort into anything else in life, you're going to take over the world. Like, we just need to apply this a little bit. And when we look at so many of the problems in the world today, I feel that we define success as society based upon what society tells us, not individually. So success is about how much stuff we can accumulate, how good we are doing versus our colleagues, how much revenue there is. There's these kind of things that happen. And ultimately, we can lose sight of our health, we can lose sight of our family, we can lose sight of other things that improve quality of life. And to sit down and really deliberately, intentionally define out what success is for you and what that means for your family, and to start to open this up, that you can have meetings so it lives within their hearts and within their lives, I think is extraordinary. It's the most rewarding work that I think that I've been able to do personally and that I've been able to do professionally as we get to spend time with you. My kids are stupid genius. I don't know if anyone else has this issue where like they are genius at cracking any technology code, winning a game in a matter of days. But when I ask them to sweep the porch, they go, what does that mean? And then they just drop the broom as they walk in front of it. And then I end up sweeping the porch and then they're like, good job, Dad. I'm like, stupid, they got me again. They got me again. Like, they're brilliant. I'm really getting hesitant about paying them any money for chores because we're no longer in a time of brawn. And I don't want them to think if I have physical effort, I get paid money for that. There's no innovation, there's no ingenuity, there's no creativity there. So instead, we've been having a conversation around, not using these exact terms, but scale and leverage and value and these kind of things that where they could do the very best that they could do because of their brains. Because we're in the time of brains, where brains make the difference. Vision is the rarest commodity. He came up with this idea to download an app on my phone that builds points for him while I walk. And those points could then be redeemed in order for him to buy video games. I was like, I love the idea. This is phenomenal. So he downloads it on his phone and on my phone, and then all of a sudden, it's time that I've earned enough, he's earned enough, he can get this amazing video game that he's always wanted, and it's not too violent, so we give the approval. And so now he has to transfer the points into my account, but all he does is look up Garrett Gunderson and transfers the points, and guess what? Some other a-hole has my name out there, right? So it goes into the wrong account, which is awesome, because now he got to learn the lesson, well, there's $40 at stake, not $4 million at stake. He's learning the lesson while he's small. And I want them to have those experiences, and he could have asked me the whole way, and I could have just done it for him, and then he would never learn the lesson until it becomes extraordinarily expensive, where I'm not there to protect him or do it for him, which creates entitlement, and we're here to abolish entitlement and embrace responsibility. I admire my great-grandfather, who left his family in 1913 because he didn't have the financial means to make it in San Giovanni in Italy. And when I went there, I realized why. That is a dilapidated town. It's going in the wrong direction. There's not even a place to eat unless we would have knocked on some Italian's door, and they probably would have let us in more than likely. But ultimately, he left and had to be separated from his family for 7 years. He didn't know what you got. He didn't have Wealth Factory. He didn't have a conversation around legacy. So imagine now what's possible of what you can set in motion to change your families, not only their financial future, but ultimately the destiny of where they can reach. And at the forefront of my family is soul purpose. What are their core values? What are their best abilities? What are their greatest passions? And what's a vision that's compelling for their life? Because people that have an exciting vision live extraordinary lives. People that don't have a vision feel devoid of purpose and they become awfully depressed. And actually, when you add money to people without purpose, it becomes even worse. It exacerbates the problem. So I want purpose to be at the forefront, and I don't want money to be the primary reason my kids do or don't do something, but I want them to be respectful of it, mindful of it. And as I reminded Roman the other day, because Roman, my 11-year-old, said, "Dad, are we rich?" I said, "Well, son, I am. I have no idea about you." That's yet to be determined, right? Because nobody's entitled just because they were part of the Lucky Sperm Club that they're going to get this money. They actually have to be a steward over their life. And soul purpose really has to be at the forefront. But the nice thing is, they don't have to choose something solely based upon money. They don't have to choose something and sacrifice in the name of one day, someday. I want them to invest heavily in themselves, have amazing experiences along the way, and continue to figure out how they can deliver even more value creation. That's really what I think we're all looking for, right? That people can have a legacy in their own right. What is it for them? And if my great-grandfather would have had a better philosophy, he would have had a better life. But his philosophy was work hard, scrimp, save, sacrifice, and budget, and then not really have experiences. Once he got to East Carbon, he never went on trips. He never left. He just worked hard. And then what happened is that permeated my whole family. That their whole philosophy became, we're just going to work, and then we'll be okay. Because if we don't work really hard, we don't know when the next recession hits or the next mine goes on strike, because I'm from a coal mining family, and everything could be taken away, including, remembering my great-grandfather, our family. We could be separated, right? So I came in there and said, I love the hard work ethic. I love the initiation of what the family's created, but my legacy is soul purpose. How can they build a life they love? How can they find and extract the most value creation of what they could deliver into the world while they're here, not just trade time for money? And I think that's one of the tougher things as a parent to embrace. Determine the life that you really want to live. What is it that you love? Have quality of life at the forefront, and legacy will be something that you can initiate regardless of what's happened in the past, regardless of background or whatever anyone else did, for, to, or whatever. But ultimately, what can you do to create a compelling vision and stack the odds in your favor that people want to spend time with you and your family? What I want you to remember is done is better than perfect, progress over perfection, meet everyone where they're at. Some of you have very young kids that you're now way ahead of the game because you'll have this information in plenty of time. Some of your kids have grown up and you brought them along with you. And so I don't think it's ever too late or too early. It's simply a matter of creating the space and doing this.